In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to use the Task Manager template for Notion that is built by the productivity company. I'll walk you through each section and how to manage your tasks effectively, and by the end of this, you'll know how to add tasks, track progress, and navigate the system. When you download the Task Manager, you will be given two files, a blank file and a sample file. The blank file has no information in it, and we will use it in a minute to create a new task so that you can see what that blank file looks like. For now though, we're going to take a look at the sample file so that you can get an overview of the dashboard and all of the different properties inside of this template. At the top, you'll see the name of this template, Task Manager, and then you'll see a short description underneath that. Every page inside of this template is going to have a description to help you along as you proceed in your task management. Below the description on the left-hand side is a quick actions section. Underneath this is a button to create a new task, and we'll take a look at that button here in a minute whenever we open up that blank file. Below the quick actions section is a navigation section to help you navigate around the template. And then we have a resources section that will have a link back to this tutorial when it is completed in case you get lost and need help. To the right of that is a task overview section, and this is grouped in a chart by the status property. It does not show any completed tasks, it just shows in progress and to-do tasks. You can see that we have a total of 11 tasks now, with some of them being in progress and the majority of them being to-do. Below that section is a high priority tasks section, and this shows priority tasks on the left-hand side and overdue tasks on the right-hand side. These two sections do not show completed tasks, only tasks that are to do and in progress. On the left-hand side are our priority tasks, and these are grouped by tasks that are both urgent and important, and we'll take a look at that here in a little bit when we open up all the different task properties. You can see that it's being sorted by due date first, and then by the score secondly. And this is a task score that is given to each task, which we'll also talk about in a moment. On the right-hand side is overdue tasks. So this is a quick reference to show you tasks that are past due and need to probably be completed or rescheduled. Below that section is our upcoming tasks section. At the top of this is our today's tasks. So this is every task that is due today. We can see the task name and the due date and the score. You can also see the task status, the area, and the type of task that it is, and also a notes section at the bottom. Below that is this week's tasks, and this shows you every task that is due within this week's current time period. Both the today's tasks and this week's tasks do not show completed tasks, only to do and in progress tasks, so that you can just keep track of what currently needs to be done. And then finally, at the bottom of the dashboard is a task schedule, which is a calendar view showing all of your tasks that are due throughout the month. This shows completed, to-do, and in-progress tasks, and just gives you an overview of everything that you need to be working on throughout the rest of this month. So we'll scroll back up to the top, and let's take a look at the navigation and the individual pages that come along with this template. So first we're going to go to the navigation section, and we're going to click on the task calendar. This is the same calendar that you will see at the bottom of the dashboard. So this is just a calendar of an overview of all the tasks for the month. And you can go in here and you can change the months by hitting the left and right buttons next to the today and the right-hand side of this view. To navigate back, we'll just go to the breadcrumb at the top and click on the Task Manager name. And it'll bring us back to the main dashboard. And then we'll go down and we'll click on the Task Progress button. This is a Kanban style view of all of your tasks that are grouped by status, to do, in progress, and completed. And it just gives us an easy way to kind of come in here and see everything that is still to do and everything that still needs to be done. We can easily change these from to do, in progress, and completed by clicking and dragging them. So for instance, if the clean the garage task was in progress, I could click and drag and move it over and drop it in, and it will put it in there for us. These tasks are being sorted by the score, so you'll see the highest scored numbers at the top and the lowest scored numbers at the bottom. Again, if this completes, we can just click on it and move it over to the completed section, it will sort it for us automatically, but it has now marked that task as completed. We'll go ahead and put it back into to do, and then we'll go back to the main dashboard. Below task progress, we have time tracking. So let's go ahead and click on that. This is a way for us to track how long tasks are taking us. So you'll see that this is a table style view with our score on the left, our task name, and then we have our status, a time estimate, time spent, and time accuracy, as well as some other details like the due date, the due status, days left, and the completed date. However, the main thing we want to look at here is the time estimate and time spent categories. And we'll go take a look at this a little further here in a moment. But basically what is happening here is we put in the actual time that we estimate it's going to take a task, and then we put in when we've completed how long that task took or the time spent. Then the time accuracy will calculate that and tell us if the task took longer than expected, was on target, or finished faster than expected. If we don't have any information into either one of these columns, then it will say add time entries because it needs both to calculate that. So you'll see down here we have time estimate for some of these tasks, but because we are not in progress or we haven't completed them, I haven't put any time in yet, and so it's not giving us any information. However, in the in progress section, you can see that we have time estimates, and since we worked on these tasks a little bit already, we put in some time, and it's going to calculate for us if we're on target or not. So let's scroll back up to the top. We'll go to the dashboard, and then below the time tracking, we have our task categories. This is going to be a table view of all of our tasks, and the views are grouped together by different properties inside of this table. So for all tasks, this is going to show us all the tasks, nothing is being filtered out, and we can see everything in one place. The only sorting that is going on is it's sorting by the due date first, so we can see the most recent tasks, and then it's sorting by the score after that. At the top, you'll see all the different views. So we have all of our tasks. We have tasks that are set to do. We have tasks that are in progress. We have tasks that are completed. We have tasks by type. So by type means, is it a one-time task, a recurring task, or a deadline-based task? We have one-time tasks, recurring tasks, and deadline tasks. We can see by status. We can see by area. So is it a work task, a family task, a personal task, etc.? We can see by tag. So anytime we tag these, is it a travel task, is it a project task, or so forth? And then finally, we can see by the Eisenhower Matrix, which we'll go over a little more here in a moment. But we can see, is it a do first task, a schedule task, a delegate task, or a delete task? If you are not seeing all of these views, there will be a more button here that you can click on to see these views further. So let's go back and click on the Task Manager dashboard. Below task categories, we have our Eisenhower Matrix. So we'll click on that. And the Eisenhower Matrix is a method of organizing your tasks by things that need to be done first, things that need to be scheduled out, things that need to be delegated, and things that need to be deleted. And when we take a look at all of the tasks on the table view, or when we create a new task, this will make a little more sense. But basically, we tell our tasks if they are important or not important, and if they're urgent and not urgent. And depending on how you set those two properties up, it will automatically set up how these tasks should be done. So if a task is important and urgent, it is a do first task, which means it needs to be done immediately. If a task is important but not urgent, it can be scheduled out to someone else. If a task is not important but urgent, it can be delegated to someone else. And if a task is not important and not urgent, it can be deleted. If any one of these properties is missing the information, it will be given a value of add priority in importance, letting you know that it needs more data, and we'll go ahead and take a look at that here in just a moment. So let's go back to the Task Manager. And then finally at the bottom, we have our Task Manager database. And this is going to be an overall view of all the tasks, and the only sorting that is going on is by the task name. This is the main database that all the information is being read off of, and I strongly urge you not to do too much tinkering around with this database, as Adjusting some of the properties can actually cause some of the other formulas to break, such as the task score, the Eisenhower Matrix, and so forth. So I urge you to use this template as it's been built, as it works very efficiently. And if you want to add any properties, the only ones that I would really suggest would be things such as the area or the tags that don't have any bearings or weighting on any of the scores or any of the formulas that are happening. But if we go back to the beginning and we look at this table here, you can see that we have our task score, we have our task name, we have the status. So the status is going to be to do, completed, or in progress. We can set a due date. And when that due date is set, we will be given a due status. So if the task is completed, it will automatically say completed. If the task is overdue, it will say overdue. If there is no due date, it will say add due date. If the task is more than 4 days out, it will say scheduled. And if the task is within the next 3 days, it will say due soon. And then finally, if the task is due today, it will say due today. To the right of that, it will also calculate how many days are left for this task. Completed tasks are 0 in green. Overdue tasks are 0 in red. And then the number of days left for any other tasks that aren't given those values. Next, we have our priority. So you can see here we can set if we want this to be urgent or not urgent. And then we have our importance if we want to set if this is important or not important. And based on how you set these, the Eisenhower Matrix will automatically tell you what type of task this is. So tasks that are not urgent and important are scheduled. This means that you should schedule these tasks out to a later date if you haven't done so already. If a task is not urgent and not important, then it's deleted. It's not a necessary task per se, or something that you don't feel is important and not urgent and probably doesn't need to be done. And sometimes these will change. For right now, organizing the closet is not urgent and important, but eventually it will become important to me. And so I might switch that and end up scheduling it or delegating it or doing it. Tasks that are urgent and important need to be done. So paying the software subscription is an urgent and important thing that needs to happen. And so it tells me to do it first. And then if a task is urgent and not important, we can delegate it out to someone else. So if I change the importance here to not important, you can see that it needs to be done. It's urgent, but it's not important. And so we can delegate it to someone else because it needs to happen soon, but it's not very important. So that's something that we can give to someone else. I'm going to go ahead and switch that back. And if you want to do some more research, just look up the Eisenhower Matrix online. There's a lot of great learning material that will tell you how that works. I'm going to go ahead and move this over a little bit so we can see more of the properties. And you can see that these first two rows will always be frozen, the score and the task name. So that just makes it a little easier to see the tasks whenever we're moving through the different properties. After that, we have our effort level. So this is basically saying how much effort is going to be put into doing this task. Sometimes the task can be easy, it can be moderate, or it can be challenging. So what kind of task is this? Is it a challenging task? Is it a moderate task? Or is it something that's relatively easy? So we can see here, buying groceries and cleaning the garage, the effort is pretty moderate. Organizing the closet's pretty easy, but preparing the presentation for a work meeting is challenging. Next to that is energy required. So how much energy is going to be spent doing this task? So we can have low energy, medium energy, or high energy. So for instance, buying groceries has a moderate effort level, but low energy required to do that task. However, cleaning the garage is a moderate effort level, but takes a lot of energy to do that task. We're going to be expending a lot more energy cleaning the garage than buying the groceries, walking around and just picking things up. And this is all based on your preference and how you see this. But these are just some examples to show you how you might think about these things. For instance, preparing the presentation for work might be very challenging and is a very high energy task. To the right of that is our task type. So this just tells us if the task is one-time, recurring, or deadline based. This is just good to know in the future. If you go back to the task categories, you can look at the task type view and you can look at your recurring tasks all in one place or your one-time tasks or deadline-based tasks. I use this a lot for recurring because if I see things that are popping up as recurring tasks, such as paying a subscription, then I want to keep track of those. To the right of that is the area. So here you can add in more properties if you need more than this. However, you can see that we can group these tasks by work, by family, by personal tasks, business tasks, or other tasks. To the right of that is tags. Similar to areas, where I see areas as different areas of your life, tags are things that you can just tag a task with. So for instance, I have some preloaded here, but feel free to remove or add any that you want. Here I have travel, hobby tasks, project tasks, medical tasks, meetings, financial, household, administrative, and other, but you might have other tags that you want to add. Whenever I select an area, I'm just picking one area. However, a task can have multiple tags. So maybe this is something that has to do with the household and is also a project. I can set it as both of those. Whenever I go into that task category and look at it by tags, I can see this under the household group and under the project group. Just going to go ahead and remove that one there. And let me scoot over so we can see the end here. To the right of that, we have our time estimate, and we went over this already a little bit, but here we can say how long we believe that this time is going to take in hours. And I usually do quarters, so 1.25, 1.5, 1.75, and so on. So here we've estimated that our groceries were going to take 1 hour, when in actuality, it took 2 hours. Whenever we put both of these values in, the time accuracy will go ahead and calculate how long that task took. So here we estimated it took 1 hour, it really took 2 hours, and it shows us it took longer than expected. If we change this, and let's say we just made this 1, then we can say it was on target. We guessed right. So we said it was going to take an hour, it did take an hour, we're on target here. Or if we go down, and let's say we change this to 0.75, it was actually faster than expected, which is great. That means that we actually went a little faster than we guessed, and that's usually a good thing because it means we are freeing up more time. And then if you don't have any information in any of these, it will say add time entries. But usually I don't add a time entry until the task is complete or in progress, so I can kind of keep track. This is really great to know because when you go back into the time management section of this template, you can look at the groups by things that took longer than expected. And those are all the tasks that you are assuming is taking a certain amount of time, but they're actually taking a lot longer, and you need to reevaluate that. So for instance, if I have in my head that buying groceries only takes an hour, but it's always taking me 2 hours, then that means I need to adjust that to a 2-hour time estimate. And when I'm planning out my week or planning out my calendar, then I need to give a 2-hour time frame slot instead of a 1-hour time frame slot for buying groceries. So that's a great way to keep track of your time management. To the right of that, we have a completed date. This helps us just understand when the task was completed if we wanted to go back and look at that. We can set a task owner. Generally, I just set myself. But if you were working with a family member or you were working with someone in your office or career or business, you might have multiple people using this template, and then you could set the task for different owners. To the right of that, we have parent tasks and we have subtasks. So here we can set parent and subtasks. If we take a look at this one called Plan Weekend Trip, you'll see that it actually has a toggle to the left of the score. If we click on that toggle, you will see there are 3 tasks below that: book hotel, create itinerary, and pack bags. So what is happening is under Plan Weekend Trip, we have 3 subtasks: the create itinerary, book hotel, and pack bags. Under each of those subtasks, they are giving a parent task, Plan Weekend Trip. Generally, you don't need to do anything here except when you're setting up the tasks and the subtasks. However, it is good to look at this every now and then and kind of see what's related to one another. And then finally, we have notes on the right-hand side where we can put in notes for our tasks. I'm going to go back, and you can now see, since we expanded that Plan Weekend Trip, we have 3 tasks underneath that: book hotel, which we've completed, creating the itinerary, which is in progress, and packing our bags, which is still to do. And we can see all of the different relevant information here for those individual tasks. So we'll go back up to the top and we'll go back to the dashboard. And once you input all of those tasks, then this dashboard starts making more sense because it becomes easy for you to just come in here and see what things have high priority. And you can start mapping out all of these different tasks, how you see fit. So let's switch over to the blank task manager file that is given to you so that you can see how to create a new task and the best way to go about that. Okay, here we are in the blank version of this. So you can see here that we don't have any information. The task overview has no data. There's nothing under any of these other dashboard features that we had set up previously. And this is a blank slate for us to begin with. The first thing that you can do is you can come in here and just go ahead and click on the name and just remove the blank title, because this is the one that you are going to be working with. And now you know that this is your starting database, and the other one, the sample one, is for reference if you ever want to go back and take a look at that to see how everything is done. But to create a new task is pretty simple. We're just going to click on the Create New Task button. And that's going to open up the side peek for us, which is what we call this window that comes out from the side. And anytime that you are adding tasks in any of the databases, it will open up this window for you. You can click on them, open them, adjust this information as you see fit, or you can do it in any of the other views. So be aware that you can always access this view later on if you need to. So we have a new item here, so we need to create a new task. So we'll just create something simple. So we'll say wash laundry. And then for the score at the top, it says needs more data, because there is no data that is being populated for the score right now. The score is a score that is made up through a formula, and that formula is based on a couple different things, such as the task complexity, how important it is, what's the priority, the effort level, the energy required. It also takes into account when the due date is, so things that are closer in due date have a higher weight, and things that are further away have a lesser weight. Also, it's good to keep in mind that the way that I did this score was I'd like to knock out the hardest, most important tasks first. So it's actually going to score higher for things that have a higher importance and priority, and also things that have a higher effort and energy level. So things that are pretty easy to do is going to score lower because we can just knock those out. But things that are really high priority, high effort, high energy, it scores it really high because we really want to get those done and knocked out. To the right of that, we have our status, so we can actually set that here. We can say that it's in progress, for instance, if we want to, and we can have a due date. So we'll go ahead and we'll make it today. Then we have our task owner. We'll just set that to me. And then we're not completed yet, but later on we can fill out the completed date here if we would like to. So for the area, we'll just call this we'll call it personal. For tags, we can call this household. For task type, this is going to be recurring, so we could say it's recurring, and then that way we can always go and review our recurring tasks later on. We can see washing the laundry is always a recurring task. It pops up every week, and so when we are planning our weeks out, we can add that into our calendar and know that that is what's happening, and just keep that idea for every other task that you create, that if it's something for your business or something for your work that is recurring all the time, you can go back and look at those if you set them correctly. So we can set notes, not really necessary for this type of task, but sometimes you want to have notes in here because you can see it in other database views, which helps. So I'm just going to say wash the dirty laundry here. Okay. There's one more property. It's hidden. I wouldn't unhide it. It's just having to display the score in another way. Just as I said before, I wouldn't tinker around too much with this template and just use it as is. Don't hide and unhide properties unnecessarily unless you know what you're doing. If we move down, you'll see the task complexity. So here we have our Eisenhower Matrix, and it says add priority and importance. And this is not going to update until we have both of those set. So for washing the laundry, this is, it's important, but it's not urgent. And so it's going to tell me to schedule that out. It's saying I don't need to do that right now. However, we have no other tasks going on. So let's just go ahead and say it's important and urgent, and we're going to go ahead and do that first. And then the effort level, how easy of a task is this? It's pretty easy, and the energy level is pretty low. So below that, we have our time management. So we can say how many days are left, and there are no days left because it's due today. That has been set by the due date. Time estimate, how long is it going to take to do the laundry? We'll say 2 hours. And let's say we've been working on it already, so we'll put 1 hour in, and it's going faster than expected. So if we were to complete this task right now, we could see, okay, laundry only took us 1 hour. Maybe if we see this recurring all the time, we can adjust our time estimate, and then that affects when we go and I go and say Google Calendar, and I'm looking at putting in my tasks. I can set that for 1 hour instead of 2 hours. The hierarchy is below that. So this isn't a project, so there are no subtasks or parent tasks that we have to be concerned about right now. However, if you wanted to add in another task and set these up, you could. I'll show you how to do it easier in just a moment, which I use for projects or things that you do need subtasks. We can add comments. This is useful if you want to make a quick note, or if you have someone else on this task and you want to comment back and forth with them and tag them, you can do that here. I also have this section at the bottom. This is giving just a little more information for you to fill out if this is a bigger task. Doing the laundry isn't something that really needs this, but you might be doing something a little more important like a work presentation and you want to fill out this information. So we have these toggles, and if you click them, it will give you these prompts. So what is the goal of this task? And then you can just come in here and you can remove this and begin typing, or just continue typing right here. The goal of this task is to finish doing the laundry, or so forth. So you can look at all these different ones here. How I know when this task is complete? What are the 2 or 3 main actions required? Below that, we have reflection and planning. Why is it important? What challenges might you face doing the task? And what would make doing this task easier? Below that, we have a time management. So best time to work on this, morning, afternoon, or night. This helps with planning. If I hit this drop down, it's just check boxes. So you can check these. And then when you're reviewing your tasks and setting up your calendar, you can come back and see if this helps you out. We have estimated duration. How long do you estimate this task will take? Sometimes you might want to fill this out first and then go back and fill it in that box at the top. And then focus mode checklist. What can I do to stay on track? And I put some in here. You can always add more if you want to, but gather necessary resources, remove distractions, and set a timer. And then below that, we have links and attachments. So just another place if you want to attach any links, documents, or Notion pages here. And then any additional notes that you might want to add if it doesn't fit in the little note spot at the top. Sometimes you might have pages of notes that you want to put in here instead. So that's how we create a new task. We'll go ahead and collapse this by hitting this button at the top that says close. And now we can see that we have our task created. So in our task overview, we can see we have one task that is in progress. That's great. We can see that it's a high priority task because we said that it was important and urgent, and so it put it here in the priority tasks. We can say that it is a today's task, and it has been given a score based on all that information. So if we click on this, it will open it back up. And at the top now, you can see a score has been given of 71. So as you begin adding tasks, it's going to give them all different scores based on these different properties and hopefully help you make decisions on which task to do first. Now, that doesn't mean you have to follow that exactly. Sometimes the score doesn't really add up with things that I need to get done, but I generally try to follow the score because it's helping me and guiding me into which tasks need to be done. So hopefully that will help you too. Below that, you can see in our calendar that task has been added onto our calendar. And as we populate this calendar, you can see all the different tasks for our calendar. I'm going to go over into the task manager database real quick so that you can see this task in the table view here. We see our score, we see the name, we see in progress, the due date, and so forth. So here's all of our information that you can add in. Now we can add in tasks here if you want to. I wouldn't recommend adjusting the properties around too much. However, you can add in tasks here pretty easily if you rather do it than hitting the button every time. And whenever I'm doing sub items or subtasks, it's a little easier to do here than it is in that other view. So if I go down and I hit new item, we can go ahead and give it a task name. So we're going to say install, let's say cabinets for the house. So this is a task, and we can go ahead and fill out all this information here as we would in that other view. Or we can hit the open button here. It will open this up and we can fill out that information. If we wanted to add a subtask, if you go to the left of the score, there's a gray drop-down arrow. And if we click that, it will open up the subtasks underneath this task. And it says new sub item because it's looking at this task. New item is a brand new top level item. New sub item is a sub item underneath install cabinets. So if I click on this, I can add a sub item. So I can say research cabinets. And then I can add another sub item and I can say purchase cabinets. and install cabinets. And then maybe we'll rename this put in new cabinets. So our main project name would be put in new cabinets, install cabinets, purchase cabinets, and research cabinets. And we can fill out the information. And generally what I'll do is I'll set my due date for the main thing. So maybe if this needs to be done, let's say by the end of March, we'll say the 31st. And then I need to research the cabinets first. So let's have that done by the 1st of March. And then we will purchase them, let's say by the 2nd week, and then install them by the 3rd week. And then hopefully by the end of all that, we've put in these new cabinets. So we can see that information here. We can see our days. And then the other thing I'd like to do is our time estimate. So I will come to the time estimate and I'll say, how long is it going to take me to research the cabinets? Let's say it takes 1 hour. And then how long to purchase the cabinets? We'll say it's going to take 2 hours to go to the store and buy them and do all that. And then finally to install them is going to take 4 hours. Now, if we count this up manually, 4, 6, 7, then putting in the new cabinets is going to take us 7 hours. So that just makes it easy for us. When we collapse this by hitting the toggle button on the left-hand side, we can see that this main project is going to take us 7 hours. But if I click that and look at the individual task, I can see how much each one of those are going to take. And as I begin filling out this information, we'll start seeing our time accuracy and so forth. So we'll go back into our dashboard here. And now you can see that our task overview is showing us we have 5 tasks because it is going to count all of the subtasks also. So we have some in progress and the majority of them as to do. So that is how you use the task manager in Notion. If you have any problems at all, feel free to leave a comment or reach out to us. You can find our contact information on the main page of this task manager, and I hope you enjoy.